Thursday early afternoon, and we're going to be talking about Week 10 for our first look for the NFL season. Big slate again this week. Well, not big slate, sorry, smaller slate again on the main slate. 10 games this week, which was nice last week, and it was really, really fun to have a really nice sweat. And I wasn't never going to win the thing, but I had a shot at second in the 333 and ended up getting stack corrected from 6th to 7th, which was a little frustrating. But it was nice to make a run and have like a double, 10K plus profit day. So that was fun. So we're ready for it again this week. And Sheets, any overall thoughts before we jump into game by game?
10-game slate seems pretty manageable. Let's just share my screen and we'll just, again, this is early look. I think that you're probably going to do something with Rhodey position by position at some point. And then on Sunday, at the final projections, we're going to go live and talk about what we're doing. We're going to have Thursday showdown slate content of some sort tomorrow. And at some point between now and Saturday, maybe today or tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, I'll be pretty – I got a lot that I can do tomorrow. I'll put up like an early Sabre sim run of lineup or something like that. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, let's just get started. We have Cleveland-Baltimore first.
Cleveland-Baltimore. All right, so why don't you start this one off? Sorry, I'm just
okay, so I really am not too interested in playing any players against Cleveland. That's as analytical as I can get it. They just don't give up anything, and Lamar, I guess, always is sort of in play in theory, but I don't know. I'm just gonna probably go elsewhere at the end of the day. He doesn't project as well as he usually projects really, really well. And there's the question whether you want to pay up or something like that. The Cleveland defense just sucks all the projection integrity out of every player. So if you want, you could talk about Gus Edwards. You could talk about the emergence of Keaton Mitchell maybe for Baltimore. But again, you're facing a defense that just doesn't give up anything. On the Cleveland side, I don't know. This whole game just seems to be just kind of a pass for me. What do you like here?
As always, look, Cleveland has been the best defense in the NFL. I don't really think it's that debatable right now. I still think Baltimore is the best team in football, as I've said all year long. I've stayed true to it when the rankings had them 15th, and now they're as high as I think 1 or 2 in most people's rankings. So I think Baltimore's the best team in football. I'm going to always have Lamar stacks against a defense that pursues and attacks quarterbacks. That's when he thrives. Like literally, the more pressure he faces, the better it is for him one-on-one. Just because he's going to be forced to run more, which is going to be good for fantasy. So I don't love the matchups for the receivers. I don't love the matchups for Andrews, but I will probably play Lamar on a skinny stack this week. Will be one of the things I do, just because you're going to get low ownership and he has the highest ceiling of anybody on the slate pretty much every week. So Cleveland, if you wanted to find a run back or anything to do over there, I think you can always take a shot with Elijah Moore at 3,600. And I think Amari Cooper at 63 is reasonable in a game where they're probably going to have to throw the ball a little bit. But yeah, like you said, not a game that just jumps off the page as trying to target. But then again, neither do a lot of these.
The way this slate looks to me is that there's 3 or 4 games that just kind of dominate the stacks that I think people are going to want to go to. And the way you're supposed to approach it is to either just go super duper heavy on those or just kind of like close your eyes and try to pivot off them somehow. And the first one that I imagine is going to be just get a lot of love for good reason is this Houston-Cincinnati game, which is next. I mean, you saw what Stroud can do. You had a slate where what's his name? Singletary was supposed to get all the work or whatever, and he was pretty well projected point per dollar, and their team scored 400 points and didn't need them at all. So the Houston side, we know we want to play the Tank Dell, the Dalton Schultz, the Nico Collins, and the CJ Stroud, and then obviously Cincinnati is in full gear right now, and everybody on that team, presuming he plays, obviously like Chase, Higgins, even Tyler Boyd. I mean, you prefer someone to be out to play Tyler Boyd, but he's only 4,600. Mixon, if you want. So this game seems to be one of the more obvious targets.
Yeah, Chase is going to be so crazy high owned as of right now. I don't know if it'll stay this way. I think the
It's
team.
not. It's not. Remember, the SaberSim stuff takes the
Yeah.
showdown slate ownership projection.
Yeah, but
So
even his projection is higher than like we've had for anybody outside of Tyreek Hill this year. Like uh, he's got a pretty massive projection.
I got him at 20. Yeah, 23.
Yeah, and then Sabres got him at 24. But so basically, they have him at, both you guys have him as the highest projected player on the slate, and he's not the most expensive. So I think that's going to make him pretty popular either way. I do think that first of all, I think this game is totally a good game stack. I would say a little bit of concern I have about it is that I think Cincinnati's defense is back too. So it worries me a little bit. But Cincinnati, like you can play the stacks, but I think you could also just play T. Higgins as just a one-off play, and I think you could play Tyler Boyd. I think they're all good, and I think that on the other side we have Robert Woods questionable, which is probably the most important thing on the slate. 2 weeks ago it didn't work because we didn't, everybody was trying to play those guys. For some reason last week everybody else got off of all the receivers except for Collins, and Tank Dell and Noah Brown went nuts.
Yep.
Even if Robert Woods plays, why wouldn't they continue going back to some Noah Brown?
It's pretty brutal. Remember 2 weeks ago when we had this, that we were there at 11 o'clock, and I was saying I have like 40% CJ Stroud in Houston. And Noah Brown was going to be the guy to win everybody the $1 million, and that was going to be my hot take of the week. You just had to fast forward 1 week.
You just needed one in a different week. I know, man. It's a bummer because this does feel like another good spot. And regardless of what you think, like regardless of whether Woods plays, Tank Dell is a good play either way. He's a really, really he's clearly got a rapport going with Stroud. The kid's really talented, and 5,500 feels like a good play either way. But yeah, this is one of the games you want to target, and I like all the other stuff. I think that it's worth noting. Well, I guess maybe it's not. Irv Smith is really cheap at tight end. Dalton Schultz is probably, is a real play at 4,900, but probably a little bit higher than I want to go. But yeah, I'm heavy on this game as of right now. So San Francisco, Jacksonville with some weather.
What's that?
Potentially with some weather this game.
Okay.
What do you want me to go first? Or what do you got here?
That's fine. San Francisco, Jacksonville. I think Debo's back. So got weapons. Jacksonville's got some weapons. San Francisco has a good defense, but I think this is the game that's the possible pivot off of the obvious ones. I think. I don't even know what the ownership is here. Obviously, McCaffrey is going to be highly owned because he's basically by contract with the NFL been penciled in for a touchdown a game minimum.
Minimum, yeah.
So you're starting with a floor of a touchdown and 20 fantasy points. It's kind of tough to fade sometimes. And I don't know if I want to fade him. If you want to know the truth, but we know where the Jacksonville production is going to come from between Etienne and what's his name and the two receivers. To remember the names, I don't know why I can't do it right now. But Kirk and Ridley. Sorry. And San Francisco, you could play Ayuk, Debo, Kittle. Now again, like with Debo back, it's not as if anybody's going to get like particularly high usage, but I think this game can actually deliver somewhat. So this is going to be, I would identify this game as kind of the pivot off of the obvious ones, and maybe that's not even going to be particularly hot take. Because I'm looking at this, I'm seeing Travis Etienne 20%. Maybe this game's going to be really popular at the end. I mean, you have McCaffrey at 20, Etienne at 20. Are people really playing this game? I wasn't anticipating this.
It's the third highest total on the slate, and there is a perception all the time with San Francisco, especially, that everybody seems underpriced because they are for their talent level, but it's because there's so many other guys. It could be, you know what I mean? You've got McCaffrey, you've got Ayuk, you should have Debo back this week. You still have, George Kittle, obviously. So I actually think this game is going to be popular. I'll probably play a lot of the Jacksonville defense this week. They're 2,400, and I will probably be underweight this game as of right now. I'm going to wait till a little later in the week to decide for sure. But as of right now, my plan is to be a little bit underweight. slightly prefer the Trevor Lawrence side of the passing game to Brock Purdy, but I think both sides are totally fine. They're very cheap. And like you said, with Lawrence, you know who to pair him with. With Purdy, it gets a little bit tough because I guess Debo's the most natural, but maybe you just go back to Ayuk or maybe you go to Kittle. It's a little tricky to figure out the Purdy pairing, and Purdy's supposed to have some ownership. So we're going to have to figure that one out a little bit later. But for right now, this game, if it's going to be too chalky, I'll probably get off of it, especially because it's supposed to be blowing like 30 miles an hour, potentially. If that happens, I'll just focus on the running game. Either way, Etienne is a strong play. And obviously, without even having to say it, McCaffrey is a strong play. Yeah.
So New Orleans, Minnesota, I'll start with this one. So for those of you who, and I have a question to ask you. So for those of you that were there at the 11 o'clock thing on last Sunday, one of the first guys, not one of the first guys, but one guy that Bobby kind of like not led with, but he just said reflectively, like, why are we not playing Taysom Hill, right? And so I guess I want to ask you, seeing he scored 20 fantasy points, did you have him in your 333?
Not in that one, no, because my other tight end scored 30. I used the K Dot. Well, K Dot had 27 and he was 3K.
But the fact is, I mean, like,
yeah, the usage is great.
As sure as Christian McCaffrey is under contract to score a touchdown every game,
yeah.
like Taysom Hill is under contract to have the opportunity to score 3 touchdowns every game.
Right. When you get
not that he's actually going to do it, but how many tight ends do you have? Like have legitimate like passing TD upside, and running and rushing upside, like more so than their catching upside. It's kind of ridiculous actually. So I'm going to put him in. I don't know what he projects. I don't care. Like he's going to be in the pool. As far as the game goes, so
it's crazy because like he's going to project terribly again, and I don't know how people aren't catching on to this.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just not going to care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the other part of this game is pretty weird, because Josh Dobbs like got shipped to Minnesota. He literally didn't even know the plays. And he was put into the game, and he was like the best quarterback in the universe for like the second half, right? I guess he's going to start because Hall is not eligible. So here we go again. I don't know. I mean, I don't even have the projection yet for this, but boy, oh boy, aren't we supposed to do this whole game? And now that I think about it, I mean, you'll have Dobbs, you'll have those same receivers, presuming Jefferson remains out, right? With Addison and Hawkinson, or even Hawkinson's questionable. I don't know what to do here. And on the Saints side, you go back to Olave, who's cheap enough. Thomas, again, I don't like him really, but Rashid Shaheed. I don't know. Maybe this game I didn't pay enough attention to, but not to mention Kamara. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this game's gonna be popular at the end of the day. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to talk me into play. Like nobody's going to talk me into playing either quarterback.
Okay.
I don't even think that's even. I really think people can. Look, Derek Carr may win something for somebody sometimes. People play him as if he's the way they score. Like every time you get the ball to the 10-yard line, the fact that
it's all Taysom Hill.
Yeah, get out of here. Use Taysom Hill as your quarterback stack. Like that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this game has some plays in it. I don't think I have no interest in either quarterback. I think in order, I think Kamara looks like an awesome play. I think Hawkinson on the other side looks great. Love Olave, and I think you want to get some exposure to Taysom Hill, and I have no problem if you want to go the other receivers for New Orleans as well. But I'm in on the pieces in this game. I can't quite get to the receiving core for Minnesota. Tough matchup for Addison. We don't know about Osborne. If Osborne is out, Brandon Powell is going to be an awesome play. But we need Osborne to be out for that to happen. And by the way, there's still some risk that it may not be Brandon Powell because the team has the most familiarity with Brandon Powell. But is that even a good thing? Because you have Josh Dobbs coming in from another system. I just want to mention this. Josh Dobbs, this guy is a genius. He's like a literal genius. He works for he interns at NASA in the off seasons. He's literally a rocket scientist, and I expect him to pick this up. So I'm not expecting this to be just a bloodbath and play the New Orleans defense and think they're going to get after him. Josh Dobbs is a completely capable quarterback, and I think this, that's why this game has some appeal. So, but again, no quarterbacks for me. Just the rest of the pieces are interesting here. Are you going to try and make Kenny Pickett argument?
Well, I was going to see if there's a single game
No.
that I would want even at this price? And the answer apparently is no. So no, I am not going to make a Kenny Pickett argument. I'm just going to kind of make an argument this game is a pass. That's what I was going to say.
I like Deontay Johnson. He just gets so much work, and you don't need Pickett to have any kind of a game to pair with him because he's getting it all through PPR stuff. And hopefully he gets in there for the touchdown. Watson is questionable. If he's out, Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs are in play. So I put Reed on here already. I'm just going to assume that. And I'm going to go right back to Aaron Jones being a strong play at running back. They really used him last week. He didn't have like a monster game, but he had, plenty of work and a touchdown. And I think that in Pittsburgh, they've struggled a little bit against the run this year. So that's pretty much it. Deontay Johnson, a little bit of Jones, a little bit of Reed. All right. Next up, Tennessee, Tampa Bay. You got the two. This game is one that I have to say, I was initially like, what can we try to find a way to do here? Because part of the reason I did that triple stack so much with Houston last week was because I was trying to expose the fact that Tampa Bay is, if you're going to beat them, you're going to beat them through the air. You're just not running the ball much on them. And Singletary became the popular play, so it made it even a better play. But I think this is a spot where you could I'll just go like, I think this is a low ownership spot I would absolutely be happy to take. I believe that Will Levis is going to be good. I might be in the minority on this. There was like rumors going around before the draft that this kid's going to be the number one pick, and people thought sort of laughed it off, and for good reason, I think, because he wasn't close, but he looks really comfortable. And he's definitely developed a rapport with DeAndre Hopkins at 6K, who's got to be one of the plays, along with you do Hopkins and Okonkwo. I think that's a really solid little stack, and you run it back with, again, it's a pass funnel defense for Tennessee. You run it back with Chris Godwin or Mike Evans, who are going to be unowned, and maybe Mike Evans gets in the end zone, which he just I needed to happen for me last week. So I'm not interested in the running pieces of this game, which other people are going to have some. I want the passing pieces, and I think it actually makes for a decent game stack. I know that sounds.
These are the two teams that you don't want to run against, but you want to pass against.
Exactly.
So seems fair enough to me. I know you don't like playing Baker Mayfield, but I mean,
I'll play Baker. I like playing Baker.
But he's got to be in play this week. I think that like you said, I mean, Hopkins. This is where this is where a rookie quarterback would like to throw the ball to basically a Hall of Fame receiver, right? That's kind of who can still get downfield, by the way, So yeah, I think that now that I'm looking at it, I think this game is pretty good. And if people decide they want to play Rachaad White, that's going to be without my money on him. Not in this spot. And I think likewise with Derrick Henry, I wouldn't play him either. I really think that this could be one of those stupid games where the flow chart people just kind of get there and just and we just the run funnel and this, then maybe both teams just try to pass this. And by the way, who was one of Will Levis's real vocal supporters before he was when they announced that he was going to possibly have to start? Peyton Manning actually came out with some incredibly positive things about him. And he knows a little bit something about the quarterback position. So again, this could be the one.
Yeah, I think this is a really, really sneaky game. And by the way, why not? We've seen Tampa Bay already they've been in 3 Millionaire Maker winners out of the 9 weeks so far. Why not make it number 4?
Okay. So we have the triumphant return of Kyle Murray to Arizona, playing Atlanta. And this game is just ripe with Q tags. Let's see. We have
everybody.
We have Drake London will be back on the field. We have DeMarcado he didn't play last week. With the exception of maybe being a glutton for punishment and taking a shot with Bijan Robinson, I'm probably gonna have to wait for an opinion on this game. I'm probably just gonna be on the sidelines for this one for now.
Yeah, to be honest, I like Bijan Robinson, but the ownership is a little disturbing.
The guy never gets there, and he's 20% every week.
Yeah, and because they just won't give him the. I don't understand what Atlanta's doing. Give him the ball. This guy is you drafted this guy as the 8th overall pick in a year where we supposedly don't have running backs that matter anymore. This guy's the most talented guy to come out since Saquon. let him get some Saquon work. By the way, Algier is probably in play at 4,700. That's who's going to get the pounding work, and they could pound the hell out of Arizona depending on what Kyler shows up. You have really cheap receiving options with Drake London, and on the other side with Marquise Brown or Rondale Moore. I like it all. It's a secondary game stack for me, but I'm definitely in on having some of it. I don't know how I want to do it yet. You'd think Trey McBride and Rondale Moore with Tyler, or you'd think on the other side. I don't think I want to play Heineke, but I'm okay with the London or the Pitts. That's pretty much all I've got here. But like I do think it's an interesting contrarian game stack. Boy, a lot of good afternoon games again.
Yep. Let's just get started with it. I mean, this is. Yeah. I mean, there's two of the last three games are really, really good, and one is awful. At least on one side of the field. So Detroit, LAC. I mean, you know, same story, same guys. Let's start with Detroit. You have Gibbs, running back. 7K seems expensive, but I don't know. St. Brown, 8,300 looks pretty good.
FYI, Montgomery, if he's back, he may be back, and that could.
Oh, he might be back. Okay, so obviously, if he's back, we're not going to play.
Yeah,
we're not going to play Gibbs. We might play Montgomery.
Yeah.
But I'm unfortunately, Mr. Bobby. I'm just kind of pot committed at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be playing like a couple of percentile points of the once aforementioned Jameson Williams. I think every week until I lose all my money. I think. So I'm going to be on that. And then on the LA and listen, the other guys in Detroit, obviously the more obvious kind of like cheapos, like Khalif Raymond at 3,100. Like I think, by the way, that you could play like you wouldn't do this obviously on a big slate, but if you make sure you have either if you played Showdown of Detroit, for example, you have at least one of Jameson Williams or Khalif Raymond in your lineup. You know, not even that. Josh Reynolds is really cheap. Like all three of these guys are really cheap. The obvious one's going to be, you know, Laporta and St. Brown, but all three of these wide receivers are under 4K and can score a touchdown. You know what I mean? Like, and can score points. So I don't know. This seems like a pretty high scoring game. Even though, listen, Detroit has a good defense, and I'll tell you what, the Chargers looked like crap the other day. Against the Jets. Now, listen, it was against the Jets or whatever.
Yeah.
They got most of what they got was from their defense, but nonetheless, I mean, is this an upgrade in their matchup? And I don't know whose defense is better, but both the Jets and
defense is better.
Yeah. So in any case, Keenan Allen 8,800. That's a lot of money, you know. As far as I'm concerned, against a pretty good defense. Quentin Johnson busted a lot of people in Showdown at 4,100. I would take a shot maybe and go back with him. Davis delivered for the Showdown people with the double shot. He returned the kickoff for a touchdown, and if you paired Davis with the defense, you were in business. You know who got some targets? The Guyton got 2 targets. I forgot that he was on the team.
Yeah.
When they're trying to figure out what to do with Mike Williams out. So like 2 weeks ago, the Simi Fehoko was in for like a whole bunch of snaps, and he didn't play at all pretty much the other day. Saw a little bit of Guyton, Quentin Johnson. I'm just listen. This is not really main slate stuff, but Eckler, 8,400 doesn't. I don't know. It feels a little bit expensive. I think Everett at 3,900 and Parham. I think they're a little bit better. I still think I'm going to go for the passing game with the Chargers. But I think this game is probably pretty good. And I guess that's all I have at this early hour.
Yeah, so I love this game. This is actually going to be the game that you'd think everyone would play, but will actually be sneakily low owned.
That's interesting.
Because no one's going to play Keenan Allen this week. The Chargers just threw the ball the second fewest times they have all year. I hope they don't get it in their head that that's the way to win. It's just because they were beating the hell out of the Jets and they didn't really need to do much to win that game. They looked bad and they didn't throw the ball really. Keenan Allen, I will go right back to that. I will try to get Keenan Allen and St. Brown together. I'm a little lower on Eckler than the field. It's kind of weird to me because I've got it sort of backwards. Like I want to play the receivers more than I want to play Eckler here. But there's less good running backs this week, so it's a little tricky. All I can say is there's not a player in this game I won't be overweight on. and that includes Josh Reynolds, Jamison Williams, will be in a bunch of my lineups. I don't care, guys. I really don't need to hear it about, oh, why you guys keep burning money with this? Because the times when it hits, it's going to pay out itself and then some. You know what I mean? You got to just sort of, it's the Noah Brown. It's going back to Noah Brown last week. You know what I mean? It's going for that. You're just taking a shot. And as you mentioned, if you're not playing him, you can use Josh Reynolds. I am going to go back to Quentin Johnston, and I might even throw in some Jalen Guyton. I will have exposure to both tight ends for Chargers, Parham and Everett, and I will be very heavy on Laporta. I love that this game is going to be lower owned than, and it's hard to stack it, but not if you can use Jamison Williams and Johnston or Guyton. And that's sort of what you need to do, but no one's going to do that. So I'm very, very in on just being way overweight this game. This is my priority of the week. I've been waiting.
If you don't have it in you to play 20% Jamison Williams on main slate, you play the afternoon slate. He's going to be like 1% owned. You know
Absolutely.
What I mean? You know?
Agreed, 100%.
And it could be one of those things where he's 1% owned in the classic and like 1% owned in the four game or two. I mean, it's possible.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So next up, you have New York and Dallas.
Yeah, you have Dallas is minus 16 points and a 36-point total, which means carry the 3, 26-10. That's the projected thing. Okay, so what do you do there? So if it's 26-10, probably don't want to play anything on the Giants. If it's 26-10, you might be able to play something on Dallas. So it's the same thing about like projecting blowouts and stuff like that in the NBA. If someone's going to be either responsible for the blowout or going to be in regardless of the blowout, then you can kind of ignore it. So if you want to play something like CD Lamb, it's gonna be, I don't want to say low owned, because right now I see 18%. But I think it is going to kind of go through the industry that they're not going to need CD Lamb because the Giants won't press him and stuff like that. Doesn't mean he can't score 2 touchdowns and get 110 yards. Right. I do feel as though it's going to be more of the game where Dallas just kind of just spreads it around and gets people their work, their love, whatever it is. Maybe Michael Gallup will finally get something, for example. But I think the real question in the slate is what you want to do with Tony Pollard, right? Because you have a 16-point favorite, and when you have 16-point favorites, you want to play the running backs and you want to play the defenses in theory, right?
Right.
And so if they do get if they do get a 21-point lead, then they'll use Pollard at least for the last third quarter to try to close the game out. And Pollard could use a good stat game, So maybe they give that to him. I think that's possible. So I don't know where his ownership's going to come in, but it's obvious. It's an obvious theoretical play that you want to make. Defensively, I mean, I actually think the Cowboys at 4,400 is too low. I don't know if you can make it work. In a vacuum, they're too low though. I mean, like DeVito is just the worst. Okay.
Well, that was the nuts from last week too. Remember we talked about the situation.
You paid up for Cleveland. You got it up, right?
Right.
But Dallas, I mean, like DeVito is not even like a reserve quarterback. The only way Dallas doesn't score 20 fantasy points is if the Giants just kind of give up and don't take any chances at all, and just run Barkley, just keep on dumping it around and take like a 23-0 loss and have Dallas score like 11 fantasy points or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you can make it work construction wise, but I find it very difficult. I mean, how many sacks are they going to have? You know what I mean? Like if the Giants actually try to have to throw the ball, which they're going to have to sometime, you know what I mean? They're going to be down and they're going to spend a quarter trying to pretend they can come back before they finally give up, and I don't know. I mean, I don't like playing $4,400 defenses, but that seems to be what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, this is it feels like a natural try to play the defense and Pollard, but I don't even know, man. Like,
yeah, right. I mean, like,
it's feel like I don't even know what I was going through so many thoughts with this game that I'm like, should I play DeVito? Like, just to get so weird because he's so cheap and you could do kind of whatever. Like, but no, it's just kind of crazy. I don't know, man. I really am having a hard time, and I have a hard time with the Giants receivers in general, obviously. I just think that this is probably going to be, just the running game, and maybe if you want to throw in CeeDee Lamb, maybe the Cowboy defense if you can afford it. That's sort of how it feels to me. Pollard, Cowboy defense.
I'll tell you, if they really wanted to make this slate interesting, they would make Barkley like 5,800.
Yeah, well, Barkley would be like 70% owned. He's still going to be one of the more popular running backs.
Right.
Because he's just the usage. People are just going to see the usage, and he's going to project well because of it.
Right, but that's what I meant. Like, if they made him 5,800 and made him like 80% owned, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Right. It would be interesting. All right, Seattle and Washington.
Yeah, so this to me is like the super duper obvious spot. You know, what's all Washington does is send Sam Howell back to throw and get sacked. You know what I mean? Like, they just just go for it. So and Seattle has weapons that we know they're going to be trying to get to. So, but both sides, every side of this game makes sense to me. Geno Smith, Metcalf, Lockett, the other guy, the JSN, whatever, and then Washington. You go right back to the same guys you played last week. You know, McLaurin, Dotson. I don't know if Samuel's going to be back. Or not. That's an interesting play at 3,900. Mm-hmm. Logan Thomas, 3,800. I'm not going to play the running backs for Washington here. You want to try Kenneth Walker? I don't know, but this game to me seems like the very logical and obvious stack spot.
I agree. And yes, I do want to try Kenneth Walker. I think that it's a very strong play and getting too little ownership for me. I mean, the fact that he's 600 more than Joe Mixon and Joe Mixon's projected to be 30% versus his 5% just feels like blasphemous. Joe Mixon, who never gets there, Kenneth Walker, who always gets there, or except for against Baltimore, which no one, whatever. I like both sides of this too. I'm not personally that interested in. Like, I think Howell's fine, and he's gonna be so popular. I almost could double stack his receivers with any other quarterback, and it would make just as much sense to me.
With DeVito.
With DeVito, there you go. Maybe not quite that far.
Pick it.
I like Samuel if he plays. I really like McLaurin, but he's gonna be popular, and I'll definitely be over on Dotson. Lockett, Metcalf, and Smith and Jigba. Lockett's price will make him the most popular, so I would be happy to pivot to Metcalf. And I like this Smith and Jigba. I think he's going to be really, really good. I've made that clear. They like him there. And I want to get, exposure to that. I also do want to mention that if you're going to make a stack of this game, do include some Logan Thomas at tight end. I think this is an interesting spot to attack for sure. Yeah. All right.
So I'll summarize this. This way, because Houston, Cincinnati, obvious and good. San Francisco, Jacksonville could be sneaky. I like that, but with McCaffrey and Etienne so popular, it just can't be that sneaky. I'm going to give the Minnesota game another look. Green Bay, Pittsburgh, I'm still off of. Tennessee, Tampa, I kind of talked myself into a little more than that I thought I was going to. Mm-hmm. I haven't given up on the Atlanta, Arizona game quite yet, but I might give up on it. Detroit, Chargers for sure. Giants, Cowboys, nothing. And Washington, Seattle, obvious.
Yep. I have Detroit and the Chargers as clearly my number one. My number two is Cincinnati, Houston. My number three is Seattle, Washington. And then my number four is Tennessee, Tampa Bay. But because of the ownership, I might just be way overweight that one and mix that with, and also the pricing in some of those spots. You mix those guys into the Detroit Chargers and you could have a good time. So that's what I'm looking at. I do think running back is going to have some pretty heavy chalk, like between Etienne, McCaffrey, Pollard, and Kamara. I like all four of those guys, but a lot of other things you can do that would be different. And I'll probably have more of that. Joe Mixon's going to be the popular other one. Najee Harris is going to get some ownership because he's 4,900. To be honest, I really don't like the running back position at all this week. And I will be happy to play Kenneth Walker when no one wants to play him. I'll be happy to play Aaron Jones when no one wants to play him, when I don't see anyone else having monster weeks here. So that's where I'm at.
So I have one more thing to say, by the way, about the slate. I think this is awesome. So I'm looking at the point per dollar just rankings on my sheets for defenses. Mm-hmm. Okay, just point per dollar. Maybe point per dollar, like they usually get the cheap guys that way, right? So I'm gonna tell you the top 2 point per dollar plays on the slate for defense. You ready? Number 1 is the Dallas Cowboys against the New York Giants. Number 2, you ready?
The New York Giants.
The New York Giants against the Dallas Cowboys. So we can all go bet the over with clear confidence.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I have the Giants currently at 13% ownership.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll just see about that. It's like when you're
the last time
Dallas can take no chances and pound the rock. You know what I mean? Like it's
they got like negative 10 points last, or sorry, like more than that against last time they played Dallas.
Ooh, but you know what does look good, by the way. My third highest one is a team that you mentioned, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville's my favorite.
Yeah,
I like that they actually do score as a defense. Like this is not a fluky thing. They get after it, they get pressure. They're a good team, and Purdy can make mistakes on throwing off his back foot.
And they're gonna have, and San Francisco's gonna have to do. You know what I mean? That game is gonna be a good game.
Exactly.
No, because San Francisco's gonna have to put the ball in the air. You know,
and then the wind might be blowing 30 miles an hour.
And the way I have that is the third highest point per dollar one, and I have that at like 4% ownership for Jackson. So
yeah.
And then other good defenses I look at are the Cardinals, as usual. They always look good. The Cardinals, 2,500 there. Bengals against Houston. That makes sense.
A little bit. I don't know if I love that. To be honest, Houston doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. Strata's really good. All right.
I'm just looking at other stuff here. Mixon is rated like a top point per dollar play, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, Mixon, Madison, Najee Harris. Which of those guys do you feel comfortable with?
Yeah. Excuse me. And Rashad White, I have him third.
Yeah, and Rashad White, who I actually played a ton last week. I loved him last week. I'm not so sure about this week.
Right. And then I'm just looking, and McBride is still looks like the top point per dollar player over there at tight end. And then wide receiver I'm looking at, and as you mentioned, maybe 30% ownership for Chase is not a terrible ownership projection. And my next 2 point per dollar plays as of now were two other guys you really liked a lot. One of them was Deontay Johnson, and then the third is the Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yeah. And just so you guys know, for anybody who doesn't remember, Smith-Njigba was the 20th overall pick in the draft. I believe he was the second or third wide receiver taken. He's really good. Like he does, like he's one part of their future. And I might do a little. We might see a little 6-man stack or something for that Washington-Seattle game, because it does feel a little bit like the game last week with the Houston and Tampa Bay. Maybe you can just play like 6 guys there and get home. All right. Well, good luck to everyone this week. Rody and I will do a position by position, debating whether or not we'll do them separate or together, but I think we'll probably end up doing it together tomorrow. And look out for that. And good luck to everyone. Let's make some money. See you live at 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. Smash